It's happening. Hey, we're
Music,
live.
please. Can we get music, please?
We could. Let's do. Not what he was expecting, folks. Take a look at the face. Not what he was expecting.
Welcome to the Demand Better podcast, where we are your consumer's guide in the health and fitness space. I am your host, Corona, and I'm joined by everyone's favorite physio, Dr. Bo Babenko out of Superior, Colorado, as well as, he'll be here soon, award-winning journalist Faraz Javed from Detroit and Channel XYZ. What's up, Bo?
Living the dream, living the Lady Marmalade dream. You weren't expecting that, were you?
I wasn't. I was wondering what you were going to come up with, but that was definitely a shot in the dark for me.
The randomness of that was we tend to my wife Maha and I we tend to have a stupid show. By stupid, I just mean silly. It's in the background. We kind of watch it to fall asleep or have it in the back if we're eating or something. And so we've been watching Will and Grace.
Great
and
show.
The episode that we saw yesterday had them singing that little ditty, Lady Marmalade. And so Maha wanted to hear it. So I pulled it up in the Spotify and you said, play a song. So it was the last song I had ready to go. So that's how it popped up. That's the story. Morning Glory. How's New York City?
New York City's hot. We're in the 80s right now. It's not bad. Everything's kind of going well. It's kind of slowing down in the city due to the summer. A lot of people taking off for the summer. But I do have some interesting news for you, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine, she goes by Kiki13 on Facebook. Okay, my friend Kiki. She was a squat denier. And now she's squatting all around Syracuse waiting for appointments. And she talked about it the first 3 days were extremely, extremely painful, which is kind of like my story. And now she's squatting along all through the city all the time.
Nice.
And she actually loves it and feels great because of it. So that is kudos to the show and to Dr. Bo.
Show. Yes. So for anyone not familiar, in the month of, was it June? I think it was June. The month of June, I did 30 days of 30 minutes of squatting per day. Just sitting at the bottom of a squat. Very simple rules. You can accumulate that 30 minutes however you want. You could do 30 bouts of 1 minute. You could do 30 minutes at a time. You could do 10 by 3 minutes, etc. Corona joined me and probably did a better job than me of even promoting it. So took it, ran with it, squatted with it. And then, got some folks to jump on that. So thank you, Kiki. I'm glad that, if you can impact one human in our day, that's a powerful thing. So I don't take that for granted by any means. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I hope whoever's listening now willing to take up some of these challenges we're throwing out. So I'm really, really happy to hear that. I'm also, next challenge, if you want to join me for this, I'm going to do it for the month of August.
Oh, God.
Is 7 minutes, only 7 minutes. We had 30 minutes. We're going down to 7 minutes of hanging a day. What's with the face? What's with the face?
I don't know. I got to judge it. I got to think about it. I'm not a challenge guy. I told you my challenge.
You're not a challenge guy, but then you did the squat challenge.
But I did the squat challenge for the show. I do stuff for the show, and I did get benefit from it. But, your little games, I understand. They work very, very, very well, and they're very productive. But let's not bore people with what you and I do. We would like you all to do this, by the way. We'd like to join us. Before we move on, because we're waiting for Faraz, but we're not. We are sponsored by Fit Care Physiotherapy and Wellness, where the idea is to focus on your fitness so you can avoid the healthcare space. It's episode 15, guys. Feel very blessed to have 15 of these bad boys out. And to work with Dr. Bo for these times. It's been an amazing, amazing time. Today's topic, oh my God, I'm so excited. This is going to be awesome. The ease of fitness. Nowadays, Dr. Bo, everybody's getting fitness from everywhere. Doesn't matter who gets it. There's lots of information out there. So I'm going to let you kind of lead the way, unless you want me to give you, should I go into
I got
we're here. Okay, go.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll give the summary here, and I hope folks connect to this concept of we're in this incredible time, and we've evolved to get things at a fingertip, right? It's an incredible thing that if you have some kind of medical emergency, you can be in an ER with life-saving procedures within 30 seconds. Maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but you're right there. You can get incredible access to these very difficult things in the past. Again, if you're hungry, you want whatever type of food from almost any cuisine in any part of the world, especially if you're in New York City, you can get, Cambodian food. You can get whatever you want and just, you got to press 2 buttons right on your phone and it's there. So it's incredible. And we want to acknowledge and appreciate the things that we've had. However, I think where we are now is when it comes to fitness and this kind of, market that's emerged, and there's opportunities to make money. And we're going to go ahead and ask you to demand better from this stuff that is out there. And this is why we, A, started this podcast. B, I think Corona's going to talk a little bit about why he chose this topic, but it very much ties into a lot of the themes from our very first episode of demanding better from your personal trainer. It's right on cue here. Speaking of devil, Faraz joining us, and his camera goes on. So to finish that thought, right as Faraz jumps in, hello Faraz, how are you, sir? What's happening? You got some feedback? Faraz, oh, he had to jump out. Okay. Teased everybody for a second there. So we're going to throw it back to Corona here. So Corona, tell us if I did a good enough job summing that up of, again, yeah, we have so much access where you want to do Peloton, boom, that's your fitness. Great. You want to go do, get your blood work done. You can go do that in 30 seconds right now. You just got to Google the right thing. So very easy to access, but we want to demand better. We want to demand more. Tell us about why you chose this topic.
Well, being in the health and fitness space for as long as I've been, 25 years, you're just watching people kind of dumb down what we do. Let me preface this off of the start. The new generation that we're dealing with, because I'm in my 50s, I always say, gets way more information than I ever thought, or my generation ever thought we could even handle or have. But the issue isn't the information that you're getting. The issue is to critically think through that information to pull out what works for you.
So it's and I'll add in there, it's quantity versus quality.
Yes.
We have all of the quantity we could ever hope for. And it's just going to continue. Everyone's out there creating more content. So quantity is infinite right now, it feels like. It's a question of where do you pull the trigger and how do we make these decisions, where we come back to we are the consumer's guide that we're hoping you here listening. Shoot us these questions. We have our experience over 50 years combined in the industry, and we want to help you guys go through that process so we can help focus on the quality, not just the quantity.
That's 100% online. And to have quality requires growth. And you have to fail. It's not going to be because my friend does X, Y, and Z, I'm going to be super, I'm going to get the same results they get. It doesn't happen that way, guys. You got to kind of figure it out on your own. And it's been really, really, really dumbed down. So the thesis and the reason I wanted this topic and call it the ease of fitness is because fitness isn't as easy as it looks. From the movement structures to the stabilizations to what you are looking to counteract your daily life so that you live a life that has longevity and pain, and you can live a pain-free existence, isn't easy. And a lot of it has to deal with doing, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, doing things that you don't want to do, that you have to do. So when you guys are looking, I'm not here to bash anybody, but I want everybody to understand everything here is personal to you when it comes to you. Your most important asset is what you have. And for you to just do an ad hoc way about going about figuring out what's right, because everybody else is doing, isn't really the best way for you to have that longevity. Would you agree, Bo?
And it's called personal training, right?
Yeah.
I think we tend to forget that term. So for sure. So let's go ahead and call out some of the things that we see. Yeah. So some of the stuff, and I want you to dive a little deeper into it on some of these, but yeah, again, Instagram influencers, right? You see these folks without certifications, without decades of experience in the industry working with humans, that have 1 million followers because they know how to gamify and play with the algorithm, and whether they're doing it off of, and we don't want to be out here as old curmudgeons like these darn kids, and why can't we, show our six packs and just so I think that it's important to, again, connect these dots of what is the value that you can get away from a $10 a month program that's not personalized, right? Some people can get value from that. So we're going to dive a little bit into those things, but we just want to call out those Instagram influencers.
Well, let's start there, Bo. Mm-hmm. Most influencers that you see aren't 50. I can tell you that right now. Most of those influencers are 25. We went over this whole thing, and I want to just briefly go through it. And we said we talked in our pre-show. There's a woman named Danielle Davis who's in her 20s who's being sued by the state of Texas. She's a woman who's got a great body. She's in her 20s. Everybody looks pretty good in your 20s if you do what you have to do. And she came out and she pretty much scammed her way to a bunch of money, and she didn't produce on the programming that goes out. But people, I'm assuming that there's got to be people in my age bracket and maybe a little younger who think they could look like her. You can't. I would say this all the time. A lot of people want to look like J-Lo. You can't be J-Lo. J-Lo's sister doesn't look like J-Lo. Their bodies are different. So if you want to be J-Lo, you got to have J-Lo's parents. You got to have J-Lo's gene pool, J-Lo's lifestyle, and the way she was brought up, the whole 9 yards. It doesn't happen. You got to be the best that you are. So when you're looking at Instagram influencers, you go look at words you see like guru. Well, what do you know about them other than what they profess to be? You don't know if they have 20 years of experience. You don't know if they've done X, Y, and Z. Are they NSCA? Are they CSCS? They don't even put that out there. They're just gurus. And they got a lot of people, God bless you. They got a lot of people following them. And that doesn't make them good because they have a lot of followers. Do you disagree, Bo?
No, and while you were talking, I did a quick Google search about the average age of influencers based on a survey conducted in July of 2020. So I don't know how much has changed since then. 53% of influencers are between the ages of 25 and 34. And 15% on top of that are under the age of 25. So we're looking at 68% of influencers are under the age of 34 at the very least. So random study. Faraz, joining us. You got a little, what is happening?
He's a hot mess right now, and he's lost again.
I removed him. I just said, no, I don't know what's going on, but we're taking him out there. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. Faraz, you can let us know when you're ready, man, with whatever sounds and noises you have going on there and drinks and things. And are you ready? I'm going to put him on. Let's see. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Faraz. What's up,
Hello.
buddy boy?
How's it going?
Going good. You look like the Karate Kid today. I love that.
I know. I'm having a bad hair day and bad internet day. So I'm trying to between the two, I'm trying to see where do I turn out a champion, where I triumph.
Well, we want you to know right now we're talking about Instagram influencers. And I want to know your thoughts in terms of the ease of fitness. What your thoughts are about Instagram influencers.
So we all know that, that realm of when let's put it this way. When people come out and they look for information, I feel like back in the days it was so much easy because you could just find that one expert, rely on that person, and get all the information, right? Now you have hundreds, thousands, and if not millions of experts who claim to be experts. And I know, Corona, you shared an article about an influencer in Texas who's going through a legal battle. And, just in case that the viewers don't know, so it's an influencer who claimed to provide health and fitness tips to her clients. Allegedly, she did not, fall through. And she, it seems like, gave bad advice or in some instances did not give anything at all. And this is, I think, a very common trap where people feel, say, they look at like, oh my gosh, like this person's got so many followers, this person has, X amount of fitness videos, they're just working out every day, they would probably know what they're doing. Chances are, no. There's a good chance they know what's working for them, what's good for their body, but they don't know what's good for your body.
So just to jump in, Faraz, you're kind of echoing exactly what Corona said right before you came on. So that's okay. We're happy to always repeat that message. I do want to take a huge jump out of this whole picture for a second to exactly what you started to talk about of, going from, it's not just one or two influencers, right? We're talking about a huge amount. So think back to Jack Lalanne, one of the first probably fitness influencers. I think we can think of one of my personal heroes. I think Corona shares that with me as well, where he was the only show in the country, in town. He was the one on TV. Back then there was 3 channels. And I don't mean to make any light of that, but at the end of the day, we're like, what is Jack Lalanne doing? And he was 60 years old, pulling a boat with his
killing
teeth.
it.
All these stunts that were, again, we see folks doing small versions of that and going viral, but he was like one of the original folks doing that. And so I just had Kelly Starrett and Juliet Starrett on my other podcast, the Bono's Health podcast. And I brought up that concept because they're two of the most influential folks in the fitness healthcare space today. So I was honored to have them on, and I asked them about this concept. And no matter how much they're in the forefront, or they should be the voice, maybe, especially Kelly, when it comes to physical therapies, I would say he's one of the top physical therapists you're going to have a conversation with. I think that it's important to point out what their response was. I want to echo here, and I, will link to that episode for folks. Is they basically said like they're almost, I don't know if they're at the point where they've seen what that looks like. They're constantly in like Men's Health top 50 influencers in the fitness space and greatest.com's same list. So they've seen that space. They're definitely at the forefront there. And they said, you know what, we're kind of backing down sort of and recognizing the landscape that we're talking about here and saying we need to be the node. The term they use is node, Juliet specifically, about I'm going to be the node for my community. I'm in a community right now with 320 units. Let's say there's at least 2 people per house. They were talking, 600 something folks. So the node being like, hey, I'm going to offer some workshops, or you guys can come work out with me in my garage. I'm going to talk to you about my concepts and why some of these traps are traps, and why just doing Peloton is not enough of a movement practice. So that's my kind of my kind of ramble, and I'm going to stop right there and throw it back to Corona.
We could have gone on that for hours.
I know I could. Yes, that's why I stopped myself. So,
no, but I also want to play devil's advocate for a second. There are also some people out there, some influencers out there who actually do know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But I guess the point to highlight is, how does one spot them? So it's easy for people to go online and thanks to social media, go on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook and get impressed by, certain people out there who are actually doing really good in the fitness world. But for people who are trying to lose weight or gain muscle or whatever goal they have, what if they're trying to achieve that and they want to follow an individual, how do they do that? What are they looking for? What signs do they need to look out for that this person can give me sound advice?
You can go back to episode 1, which you did when we taught how to find a trainer, number 1. Number 2, I'm going to say this to you. Americans by nature are lazy. You go onto Google, you search something, you go onto that first page. There's not many people who go to page 2 to kind of really dig it out and to do research. And we got that from our research when we did it with you. What we set off of episode 1 was the first thing you should do is you should try 5 trainers is what we first said. And then we said, when you have 5 trainers and you've exercised, the guy that doesn't give you an assessment off of inception is where you should run, because he's building a house without plans. So if you don't have, just do push-ups. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. All right. And then we talked about title confusion, which is the thing that's being played on Instagram and some of these other social networks, where you say you're a guru. I'm a guru. I'm a this. I'm a that. That guru thing, people are like, oh my God, he must be something special. And then the fourth thing we said is professionalism, be basic, and we talked about traps. But the most important thing is you have to find someone who's going to tailor make that program to you. Not throw something at you that is given to 100 people, something that works with you that will benefit you. And if you're not getting that, you should run.
But Corona, how does one know that this program has been tailor-made for me and it's basically not something that they just rearranged from another client's program and given it to you? Or they just, copied it and given the you exact same program, because you wouldn't know.
You would get that off of the assessment. Because if you talk to your client, you tell them, this is what I got from my assessment, this is where your problems are, this is what I see. As we fix things, other things are going to break down because you're not working at an optimal level from that assessment. And then there will be change within that program as your body changes, other things start reacting. That's exactly what you do in the same practice, correct, bro?
Yes.
100%. So here's a question for both of you, because both of you are trainers. You just have different practice or different styles of training. When you guys come up with an individualized program, how often do you go through or how often do you reassess your clients? And two, how deep of a conversation do you guys really have? Because it sounds like most of these influencers who claim to be fitness experts just ask people to fill out a questionnaire or a survey, and based on that, they go like, okay, so you fall under this body type, this is your workout category. I'm just giving you one example. I'm not saying everyone does that. I'm not saying this is the only tactic to deploy. So how do you guys do it?
Bro, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, every single session for me is a reassessment. Every single interaction for me is a reassessment. That's why my model is if I see someone twice a week in person, I want to be in touch with them the other 5 days online. And I put them in an online model, even if those workouts are something as simple as a little reminder. Every Tuesday, I generally send out this, and I'll admit it's a generic thing I send to almost every one of my clients. But it is, hey, every hour of the day, I want you to squat for a minute or whatever have you, like throughout your day. So in between calls, do this one stretch based on XYZ. If somebody's dealing with something else, right, it's always going to be something different so that we can customize it, tailor it, all that good stuff. I do have generic movement flows that some people prefer, and that works for their schedule. And they say, hey, I only have 9 minutes a day and I want to focus on my hips. Cool, I have a program for that. Someone else Faraz says, I'm training for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and CrossFit and being the best looking model of on ABC that we can be. So if he comes to me and I say, cool, we need to do a little bit higher level, I need at least an hour from you a day. When Faraz, again, he told this story when he came to me initially and said, hey, I want to be at the CrossFit Regionals next year. And I said, okay, well, let's have a conversation about what you need to commit to. And he'll continue to, joke and laugh about that. But the reality of it is, to answer your question,
that you killed my dream. That's the reality.
Yep. That's what I was doing. So to throw it over to Corona to finish that up it's got to be a constant evolution. And that's where, again, not everyone's willing to pay for it. Not everyone's willing to offer these things. Not everyone needs that level of customization. So again, there's a lot of folks out there, succeeding with, again, like a CrossFit model where it's generic programming. We can call it, it's some of it's better intention than others, but at the end of the day, that fit has to happen at your price point and as well as, what you actually need. And if nobody's stepping back to actually assess what you need, that's where I continue to push on the fact that we all need to have at least once a year someone who's a doctor of physical therapy or within these credentialed places have that conversation of, hey, I want to do triathlon, or I want to, go climb 14,000 feet in the mountains, or whatever that need is. And I have this aching me and my knees bugging me and my Faraz always with the wrists and the Brazilian jiu-jitsus. So that's kind of my thing. It's always got to be evolving and changing. And that, unfortunately, that's not what we see. And that's kind of what we're trying to bring to light. So Corona, I don't know what
and what I will say this year from a programming perspective, I change people's programming every 4 to 6 weeks. But a person in my industry has to evaluate their client every single day. When they walk in, you can tell by movement patterns on what they're successful, what they're not successful, what's tight, what's not tight. But when it's all said and done, it's a constant evaluation. I change programming every 4 to 6 weeks, but that doesn't mean that if I see something that needs to be changed today, that I don't make that change and make that modification today. You can't be so rigid to the point in this thing, because each person's individually different, you have to take their lifestyle into consideration. So the more and more, if I see, Faraz, that you're doing something and I'm start asking, oh, you're doing this more and more and more, you need to do this. It might go right off of the programming that we were doing, and I have to modify that because that's what you need then. And that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is take this for 8 weeks, you'll look slamming. And there's no evaluation off of inception that maybe I'm going into the CrossFit model and I'm going to do a snatch or a hand clean or whatever, and maybe my shoulders don't medially rotate. There's certain things that happen that prohibit you from being able to do stuff, and there's certain people say just work through it, and that's not it. Because my big thing with all of this is that the advice that people give you online a lot of times could injure you, and could injure you for a very long period of time, and set you back 3 steps instead of you going forward 1 step.
And hold on. The last thing I want to throw in here, and sorry, Faraz, I'll let you go, but I feel like Kanye West. I'm gonna let you finish. But the main thing I wanted to throw out there is this is something I throw out from time to time, and I think I mentioned on my podcast or here as well, is there used to be a thing in infomercials and commercials that would say, before you start any new exercise program, check with your doctor.
Yes.
I have a doctorate, not just patting myself on the shoulder here, but it's not just your medical doctor to make sure you're healthy enough for a new exercise, but this is also what I'm talking about. We're talking about here around, Faraz, you asked that question, and I think we talked about this on a previous episode around stress. So this is another thing that can get lost in there where, hey, that's great that we're giving you this high intensity exercise program. However, if your bucket of stress is already at a 9 out of 10, and now this high intensity interval training program is at least 2 more points, we're taking you to 11 out of 10. Now we've broken you. And that's on you to some extent, but you also look at it as like, that's the solution to my stress, but it's really going to break you down. So there's a lot more to it as we have gone into. Sorry, I cut you off. I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, that's definitely insightful. But here's another question that reflects to customizing. It's the image that most people end up chasing. So they'll probably look at a certain celebrity, or they'll look at their idol in a magazine or in a video where they're all shredded and ripped. And I think most people chase that image.
Right.
But let me just finish the thought. But most people can't achieve that.
Right. So
whether it's for 2 reasons. Sorry, Bo. I'm just want to highlight this.
I'm going to stop you. I am going to stop you because Corona said this again about J-Lo before, and this was the thing right before you came on.
Yeah.
It's exactly what he said. Unless you have J-Lo's money, J-Lo's sister doesn't look like J-Lo. Unless you have her money, her resources, her genetics, all of that, you're exactly what you're saying.
Her parents,
that genetics. Yeah. So I think that's where you're going, Faraz. That's why I wanted to stop, because we already touched on that before you jumped on. That's okay. That's both of our.
I thought we were allowed to repeat it.
We are. It's worth repeating. But also I wanted to jump in because it also cues up this concept of traps that we're talking about, right? So within the ease of fitness, it's easy to fall for these traps of before and after pictures, and again, you can go on YouTube again and see how easy it is to manipulate. What a lot of folks do is they again look good, and then they'll actually do that as the after picture, and then they'll go eat a bunch of stuff and dehydrate them or hydrate them, just make themselves look worse. And they'll make that the before picture. So we've seen some of these manipulations. It's very easy to do. I'm not saying everyone, again, is lying, although I'm a skeptical New Yorker at heart. So everyone is lying until proven otherwise. When it comes to this stuff. So there's the before and after pictures. Again, as Corona alluded to, there's the, hey, take this pill for 8 weeks and you'll be shredded. Again, all these kind of multi-level marketing schemes, Herbalife, and I'm not even going to try to name all of them, but they promise you healthier life from smoothies and just this whole change in body type. And then the other one we talked about is, again, those 25-year-old sexy kids who, they might look good and they have the genetics, and that's not going to work for 50-year-old Corona.
Let's just be clear. We the average age is 25 to 34 for an influencer. 68% of them, correct, Bo? That was the number.
68% is under 34 years old.
Under 34 years of age. So if you're older, if you're over that age, a lot of these influencers don't have to work out. They don't have to work out. They naturally look good. So what are you chasing? What are you trying to go for? Fitness isn't easy. Fitness is getting in shape. For us, of all people, you trying to be world champion at the CrossFit Games. Fitness isn't easy. You were trying to be world champ. Okay, you got the whole head thing, the Karate Kid thing going. You were trying to be champ. Bo crushed your dreams.
That is true. That's a fact.
The point of the matter is,
yeah,
there's somebody 25 who looks just like you, who could be jacked up. Doesn't mean you're going to be him.
Yeah,
it just does. And I think there's a perception because there's so much information, that it's all possible and that we can do whatever we want and we're going to get what that person has on screen. It's not true, people. It's not true. Go ahead for us.
Okay, so since we're on this topic, just real quick, either you or Bo, how healthy or unhealthy is being shredded?
What age are we looking at? It's not really healthy, dude.
That's just a general thing. Yeah.
I'll add in real quick from a true medical perspective. Yeah. For females, generally anything so shredded, we're kind of talking about body fat percentage generally.
They lose their period.
And they lose their period. It's a term called amenorrhea. Again, in gymnastics, this is a very unhealthy thing because they have to maintain a certain body weight, especially, again, as women go from pre-puberty through puberty, and the hormonal implications are just very, very crazy to think about. For men, there's a lot more play in general. Again, talking huge generalities. But for women, being under 15%, really 16%, somewhere in there, you can look at different textbooks and look at different numbers. Anything below that, and that's what we're talking about, is when you start to show the six-pack. In order to show the six-pack really and be shredded, as you're talking about, you really need to be below like 10%. Yeah. So that's where what that lack of shredded is storing body fat. Body fat has a lot of the hormones and producing things that we need to store in order to be healthy. And this is why if you want to have a kid, we talked about these things of defining fitness as being able to reproduce. It's not the only way to define fitness, but once you go below a certain body fat percentage for both men and women, you're no longer producing the right hormones. So you no longer have that ability to have a child as a definition of fitness. So it's also not very sustainable. You can talk to anyone who's tried to do it or be on a cover model of Men's Health or whatever. They can do that, and they might go through a 2-3 month phase, maybe at the most, or they're doing it for a movie. You can talk to these folks, and I've worked with them, and it's very energy depleting. And if that's your only job, maybe you can do that, and you're doing it for, the love of the art and a huge paycheck of millions of dollars. Great. However, and we can see it in the bodybuilding space, the fitness model space, it's just not sustainable. And those who try to stay there create a number of problems that I think is beyond the scope of this podcast, but that'll be my answer to your shredded question.
Bo, before we move on, let's just be clear here. There's only one person out of the three of us that's actually shredded, and it's the Karate Kid. The Karate Kid is the one that's shredded amongst all of us.
I mean, shredded and skinny are two different things.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Keep
it moving, Bo. Keep it moving, buddy. Let's go.
but
Faraz, you had a follow-up?
Yeah. So the follow-up question to that is, so when people are online and they are looking at, these social media influencers, and they want to get inspired and follow a certain influencer, we've talked about one way to find out. We also spoke about what to look out for when they're reaching out to them and they're trying to give them advice so they can decide if this person is good for me or not. But we also spoke about how to recognize the right body image, because, being shredded, or if you don't have the right money, you're probably not going to achieve that. And being shredded is probably not the healthiest way. So what does one actually try to achieve? So when you say healthy, we spoke about the fact that reproducing is one good healthy thing. The ability to reproduce is it comes under the healthy notion. But so when it comes to body fat, what do people should chase for? Are we talking about anywhere between 15 to 20% body fat?
Do you want to take that one, Corona?
I think that really, really all depends. I mean,
I think based on how you're starting to answer that, I'm going to jump in.
I know what you're going to say, but go ahead, because
I'll just say there's healthy ranges that are going to define what we're talking about: the ability to reproduce, the ability to have good energy. And so for me, body fat percentage is not, and again, a lot of personal trainers, and I Corona, you're a little bit more in that space, when I work with folks talking about health, I do not measure body fat percentage.
Neither
If
do
they
I.
know they have 20 pounds to lose or what have you, that's generally pretty accepted. If folks are way too skinny, the really big part of this that I've thrown out there many, many times, and I'm happy to throw this concept out again, is most people are not overweight. They are not over fat. They are under muscled. And muscle is the organ of longevity. So if we can focus on that journey of building muscle, everything else will take care of itself in terms. And again, there's no being too strong. There's guys who can't fit through doorways and things like that. It takes incredible dedication, commitment, steroids, all sorts of stuff to get there. So to answer your question, Faraz, about body fat, what's an ideal body fat percentage? There are ranges of healthy. If you're too skinny, too low of a body fat percentage, it becomes unhealthy and unsustainable. If you're above a certain amount, you're more likely to be at disease risk, coronary heart disease, all these different factors, stroke, all these things as we age. So we know these numbers. And this is where, again, a big conversation, I think we touched on this previous episode, was there's this whole concept of body shaming or health shaming. And so when somebody, or, loving yourself at any size, at some point we have to say, hey, you are 100 pounds overweight, what we consider a healthy range. I'm all for not creating a mental health disorder, but I'm also for you not dying of a heart attack. So can we find a way to have a conversation there? So I do think it's important to have that conversation.
Yeah, and I think you got to be careful also, in terms of that. I think Bo's dead on in terms of the body shaming and stuff of that nature. There is an unhealthy weight. Sorry, there is. There's a certain percentage that is unhealthy. It's just the way it is. When I said to you it depends, I don't like throwing that stuff at clientele. I want clientele to get stronger. I want clientele to be able to. There's an old adage, what was it? Be able to outrun somebody who's chasing you. You know what I mean? That whole concept. Fitness has gone into what you're talking about is aesthetics, straight aesthetics.
And that's what most people chase.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you're healthy.
I agree with. And so that's what I wanted the viewers to hear.
Yeah, so let me try to put a little bow on that whole question. And concept is we're talking about what people should try to look out for. And so if somebody's talking to you about six-pack abs or body fat percentage, there's a disconnect of the science. There's a disconnect, and they're trying to go off of the clickbait. And the big thing I want to talk about is the big concept of ease of fitness and virtual fitness and social media influencers is somebody can have 1 million followers and not know what they're talking about, and have a lot of folks like me and Corona disagreeing with them that know the science. And I think that the folks, not that everyone who has 1 million followers is wrong, but the folks that I think I would trust the most that happen to be on social media, and I think the same for Corona, probably don't have huge followings. Because we're spending time in the lab. We're spending time with clients. We're not trying to gamify the system. And again, like I said, Kelly Starrett with his wife, Juliet, they're probably two of the smartest. She was a very successful lawyer in San Francisco before she became full CEO of their company and trying to build that brand. And they're two of the smartest people I've ever had the pleasure of speaking with. And I think, they're overall, and they've had numerous New York Times best-selling books, and they know how to play those games too. They're on TikTok and all this stuff, but their total influence is still going to be a fraction of our friend in Texas, the personal trainer that is, under scrutiny. So yeah, at the end of the day, I do think that's a big concept that I want to pull it back to is most of the people online, if you're out there as a consumer, which we're coming back to that consumer report that we're trying to be, they should be able to speak pretty in depth on various concepts. And the more confidence they have about something sells better.
Yeah.
But the more confidence they have, that tells me they're either inauthentic or just trying to sell something.
P.T. Barnum.
Is it safe for viewers to know? And I understand there's going to be a lot of different facets to it, but in general, the goal should be to build more muscles for both men and women.
That's the origin. The muscle is, as Bo said, that's what's going to give you longevity. Depending on what you're looking for, if you want to live a long life, you want to be in shape, you want to burn more, You need to build muscle. You need to build muscle. There's trainers out there who give people a 3-pound dumbbell to do 50 times. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. But you need to build muscle. Bo, you were about to say.
Yeah, I just want to double down on that fact that, again, we're not talking about, not being able to fit through a doorway. And a lot of folks I've spoken with over the years are worried, especially women, are worried about being too bulky. And I need to double down and say, it's like saying there is such a thing as being too bulky. And I understand the aesthetic piece that, again, Faraz is talking about. And I don't want to be too academic and in my ivory tower, as they say, to say, hey, like, you should be okay with being bulky. Like, I get that there's a reality to that situation, but the more basic level of muscle, there is a minimum muscle mass that, as we age, it's going to help you, as Corona alluded to, be happier in your skin, have less surgeries. My brand, Fit Care. If you focus on muscle, fitness, how we define fitness, you can avoid healthcare. I think we all want to avoid healthcare. We just don't know how to do that. So we
want to
think
do it easy too, Bo.
Yeah.
They want it to be easy. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Right. No, we all want it to be easy. We all want that pill. So to answer your question, Faraz, I just wanted to add in that little disclaimer or a caveat to the whole thing of, I don't need you to be the bulkiest human possible, but if you cannot deadlift, a very simple number of 1.5 times your body weight, if you weigh 150 pounds, you should be able to deadlift 225 pounds one time. That's a very simple metric. As we age, we lose muscle mass. That is what aging is. So if you're not staying on top of that, it's like not having money in your savings account. It is like not having something to live off of, not having assets to a house to live in. So, that's the thing. We're simply trying to convey that. And again, this is a very big area for me where I see people disconnected because they say, I don't want to put on too much muscle. And I'm saying, well, but you want all these other things. And the answer to all these other things is to have as much muscle as possible, whether that's climbing, skiing, continuing to do CrossFit or all these things. So whatever that is, rock climbing, running, all these things you will be more likely to succeed in and be better at if you have more muscle. We're turning this into a muscle. I'm turning it into a gay muscle thing.
No, but it's important because this is exactly what people chase, most of them, and they end up following the wrong path.
Well, the path is always what you see. Okay, people listen. When people know what people have to do to get somewhere, they normally don't want to do it. They do the sacrificing that people have had to do to get from point A to point B. When we're looking at somebody to take care of your most important asset, which is you, you're going to just throw it on somebody that's 25 online, good or not, I don't know. But you're just going to just throw it out there and let whatever may happen. This is what we're looking at right now. There are people who think looking like Twiggy is healthy. It is not. It's just not. And we get back to being the whole topic of muscle, and people don't want to talk about that because it doesn't sell. And there's a big marketing component in this whole thing that's going on, that people are spending their money and wasting their money on people who actually can't deliver what they need. It's a choice.
So let's bring it back to the whole concept that we're trying to talk about. And I also, because someone, I think Corona, you just said something about the righteous path. We were talking about the righteous path. Yes. It made me think of the Pulp Fiction quote. So I got that scrolling on the bottom. Not going to read the whole thing. Anyone familiar with the Samuel L. Jackson quote from Pulp Fiction? But I do think it plays a huge part here. And I also Corona, you said earlier, fitness is not easy. And correct. I want to challenge you on that. I think and that's the point of this episode, right? Ease of fitness. And we're trying to point out that that's a misnomer and that's not a real thing. But I want to come to the secret, and I meant to tease this earlier. I don't think I did, that there is a real secret to fitness. And that's where I think what Faraz is asking to some extent and trying to get after, I want to bring it down to this. There is a secret to how the human body works, other than just build more muscle. That's a part of it. But it's master the basics. That's step one. It's master the basics, which, again, when we're talking about what you should be looking for with all these programs and six-pack abs and looking sexy and losing X amount of inches off your waist, and again, going to shakes and Herbalife and all these things, none of them really, and it's not sexy. Master the basics is eat broccoli, like we're sponsored by bananas and broccoli. Like, that's not a thing. There's no money there. And all jokes aside, master the basics also means how well do you do push-ups? How well do you squat? How well do you hinge? I mentioned the 1.5 times body weight deadlift. I do think that's a good way to look at you as a human. There is the let's meet in the middle. And if we're going to get you to do Zumba or Peloton, great. Let's start there. But we can still measure your blood work. And when you're ready to have that conversation of what's the next step. So again, when Faraz said, hey, I want to go to the CrossFit Games. And I said, okay, where are your numbers at here? And he said, I don't even know. And I said, well, that's your disqualifying factor. You should know those numbers. So we can go and measure those numbers. But that's the point to me. So master the basics, and we can go more in depth on what the basics are. And most of these unfortunate programs are trying to sell you something that is not, and trying to be a hack. And we're all looking for that. If there was a pill, if there was a diet that worked for everyone, I'd be on it. I'm all for it. If there was a pill that made us all, again, like look really lean and feel really healthy and be less likely to die and extend our lives, great. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist. And so step 1 is master the basics. Step 2 is rinse and repeat and do it consistently. You want,
Yeah.
I've been somewhat in this fitness space trying to be around the basics, and I've evolved and, done too much, too little, not enough, whatever over the years. And the reality of it is, the longer you can go without being injured and staying in the game, and the game is looking at all of these different ways of fitness. If you're just doing Peloton or triathlon or pickleball or whatever, if you're just doing one thing, you're missing a lot of the full capacity of what our bodies need. Even if you're just building muscle, if you're not getting your joint health to work all the way through, and you don't have enough hip internal rotation, that might lead you to a total hip replacement, no matter how much muscle you have. So bottom line is, I'm going to stop there. I'm sorry I got all impassioned and I got my my favorite.
No, but I think you're. But let's stop right there because I think you're dead on. I mean, the stuff that's going to help you have longevity and to make you look good and to make sure that your body functions appropriately, it's boring. And when I say the ease of fitness, and I say fitness isn't easy, because to find out what works for you requires failure. You need to fail to figure out what's going to work with you, because what works for Faraz may not work for me. I'm not Faraz. Faraz got six-pack. Faraz is a six-pack, shredded, fighter, jiu-jitsu fighter. What am I?
You're a punk. No, let's take that. Let's take that, and I'm gonna throw out our 5 takeaways from episode 1-ish. We're gonna modify them, and I want Corona to expand on them, and Faraz, jump in if you have questions. So the first takeaway is try 5. So if you're gonna go off of these influencers, right? Try 5 was the concept we talked about in the personal training. Tell me how you feel that applies to online, Corona.
Well, I think you have to find out that everybody's going to have a different story. Everybody's going to have a different basic program for you to do that will get you to the Holy Grail. You need to find the person. The reason we say try 5 is because one of those people, God willing, will be the person that says, let's take a look at you. Let's take a look at you. And they'll start making out and setting you up for what your body needs. And there's a guy, Benko, your buddy online, who I loved. You did a great interview with him. His last name is Benko, and he was just a very basic guy in terms of what his approach. When you look at this whole thing, everybody's selling something. You need someone who's going to tailor make something to you, period. And you're not going to get it on the first try. You might not get it even on the 5th try. You might have to go 6 or 7, but you need to go out and find out what is going to work for you, and someone that's going to set up a plan for your future success.
And as we said in that first episode, if there is no assessment and it's not getting tailor-made, we encourage you to run, but also just look for something. Like if we want whoever's listening to be encouraged and find a place to get that assessment. Again, Corona, myself, we can probably hook you up with some kind of virtual assessment if needed, if you're not in New York City or Colorado. And so try 5, get an assessment within that is one thing that, again, we're saying you should look out for. It was episode 99 of my podcast, A Bo Knows Health, with Anze Benko, who is an online trainer. Again, a fun chat for me.
And if you want 6-pack abs, call for us. Go ahead.
Number 2 takeaway is title confusion.
Well, I've already touched on it. Basically, I'm a guru. I'm this. I'm that. Whatever.
Well, movement experts, guru. I don't think a lot of people call themselves guru, but That's how they.
Those are yoga people more. They would call themselves a guru, right? Maybe yoga, that space. But whenever you hear some crazy, I call myself an alignment specialist because all I really focus on is how to align you and to get you back to neutral.
That sounds crazy.
That sounds crazy. Okay, but that's what I call myself. I'm an alignment specialist. That sounds nuts. All right, and when you come in, you'll notice. When I work with you, then you'll understand why I call myself that. But to call myself a trainer is ambiguous, and I feel that people that are in training right now are doing systems, and they're not tailor-making to their client. Go ahead, Bo.
So number 3 we have here is professionalism, and I thought we were.
Well, people, the way to present them, we were going to change that one, but we do have professionalism and how people come in about their session, how they approach you, how they have conversations with you. This isn't always a comfortable situation. You have to be professional in terms of having those tough conversations with your clientele and the way you approach them and how you go about dealing with certain situations within the system, within your training systems. There's some people who just aren't professional, and that's pretty basic.
And that takes us to number 4, which is be basic. Be a basic B.
Yep. If you want to be solid and you got to do the hard stuff. The hard stuff that's not usually the hard stuff, but some of that stuff is really tedious and it's really not fun. It's not enjoyable. But if you do it, it will give you longevity going forward. And you need to be strong in muscle groups that you don't normally do, so they can support your movement patterns.
Yeah. And again, for me, I'll throw in real quick some of my real quick things is you should be able to squat with both feet together all the way down. That tells me almost all your joints are pretty happy and healthy. You should be able to do an overhead squat with at least an empty barbell. And that tells me, again, you have some really good movement capacity. It's in the functional movement screen. So not everyone needs it. But if you can do those things, it tells me you're way ahead of the curve and you have way more money in your bank account, so to speak. So there's a bunch of things like that, again, if you can breathe into your belly and you can show me that right now, then again, we're ahead of the curve. And I think we can take your tools you have right now and we're setting up for success. And it's like looking at a financial thing and saying, hey, you don't have any credit card debt. That's great. You're already ahead of the curve. You have X amount in savings. We just might need to put things in different mutual funds or stocks or whatever. So there's different things like that. So for me, that basics of what every human being should be able to do not change very much. And they haven't for hundreds of years. And we know all this. And we've tried to make it sexier or focus on, knees over toes or focus on whatever, dunking a basketball or all these different things. So at the end of the day, there's some really basic stuff we need to be able to do. We need to be able to bring oxygen into our body and push carbon dioxide out. If you're not able to do that, and we have ways to measure that, that tells me you're just like you check your car's engine, the ability to take gasoline in and use that and use gasoline efficiently. There's things that go wrong in that whole system. I don't know anything about cars, but there's things that go wrong there.
You sound real good, boy. You sound real good.
So anyway,
that's why people looking for car advice should not listen to the Bo.
Definitely not. So that takes us to our 5th takeaway is avoiding the traps. So what do you got there?
Well, we got, first of all, if you're going online, you see someone 25 and you're 50 like me, don't think that you're going to look like them. It's not possible.
What about Liver King? He's pretty old.
Liver King? Come back to me.
You don't know about Liver King?
I don't know about Liver King, but I'm very interested.
He is a not natural looking human being, which I'm happy to call him out. He actually did a video. Joe Rogan even called him out. Joe Rogan's another fun part of this whole conversation, I would say, that we haven't even touched on because it's very controversial. But no, Liver King is, he looks like he's probably around 40 years old. He claims he eats a very meat-based diet. He eats raw liver, hence the name. And then he has videos with him like with ankle weights on, and he's dragging a sled behind him, and he's like carrying stuff. And he's trying to promote this as some kind of, and he's got over 1 million followers. Again, most people find him to be that understands science. And again, maybe this is like a genuine thing, and maybe he's not taking steroids. He had a whole video though that Joe Rogan had pointed out of where he's like, he had his assistant go get steroid needles, and he had them. And he's like, I don't even know what these are. And it sounded very fake, I'm going to say. So again, he wants to come on here and or wherever and defend more of that. I mean, he gets the steroid thing all the time. Whether he takes steroids or not, that's not the whole point. But the bottom line is, I thought it was is a very interesting example of someone who's kind of promoting this very extreme
Yeah.
thing that catches people's eyes because he's interesting to look at, because he's a very unique human. If you go and check him out, I don't follow him. I definitely would not take much of his advice. So
that goes back to I'll look him up. Oh my God, that goes back to the game changers that we all talked about with diet. The same exact thing. And you know, we're at this point right now where you got to do your research. You just got to do your research, and you got to find out what works best for you.
But Corona, I just want to throw this there. I mean, the fact that they're 25 years old or 50 years old and they're, you know, have achieved so much in the fitness world is not the red flag that we're looking for. I mean, some of them could actually be knowledgeable.
Sure, 100%.
Right, because we're not just saying, oh, it's a 25. You're not attacking the age over here.
No. This isn't about age. This is about an information overload that we're getting right now, and people are making decisions about their bodies based on their eyes. Just because you do X and your body looks like X doesn't mean if I do X and X, I'm going to get the same result as you. And if I'm not getting that same result, 9 times out of 10, if I don't get that result, what do people do? They don't turn a lot of times and go back and try to research more. They quit. And they say, well, it didn't work.
And also race and ethnicities also play a big role as well. And I know this is where genes come in. Like someone from Iceland, if they're training for CrossFit, I mean, I know, Bo, you and I, we've spoken about this. There's just no way, you know, you and I, we can match their intensity or what they do.
Sure, I think you're getting into a little dangerous territory here when we're talking genetics, ethnicities, races. I've had the pleasure of visiting Iceland and running up a volcano with some of the Icelandic Games athletes and all that good stuff. So that's a huge generalization. It just happens that, yes, there are a lot. It's their whole culture and lifestyle does push towards that. And if they've been doing it, so that's where we come back to one of our conclusions here of, if you've been doing something for 30 years, which is what we're talking about these Icelandic athletes, that it's not just that their genetics, and their genetics is very active human beings for a long time, where strength is kind of built into their life. So when you're saying, the statement you're saying, I want to take it from like the very broad, and I'm not calling you insensitive, and I'm not going to cancel you here today, Faraz, but I do want to point out that, yes, we're talking about Icelandic culture, a country of 300,000 people, by the way, very interesting thing to study. Again, generations of things that we can look at, and genetics, so to speak, load the gun, and epigenetics pull the trigger. So when you're saying we couldn't hold a candle to, yeah, we can't hold a candle if our genetics, and we don't have 10 generations of folks who have been very active and strong. And, you know, on top of that, there's people with those good genetics that didn't do the epigenetics. So they're sitting on a couch and they're playing video games and they're not participating in that culture. You take someone from Iceland, you pop them into somewhere in America, and they're, you might remember, was it Livan Hernandez?
Yep.
He was from, was he Cuban?
Cuba, represent.
So, and he got to America, and I just bring this up because it kind of reminds me, but you take somebody.
No, you're talking about El Duque.
No. Livan Hernandez was the example I'm bringing up because when he came to America, he had never had a Big Mac, and he fell in love with the Big Mac. I believe that's the story, and he gained like 150 pounds, something ridiculous. Like he ballooned up. He was still able to, you know, perform at a pretty high level, but maybe his career was cut short. But the point is, again, you take somebody with excellent genetics and you ruin that with lifestyle. You need to factor all those things in. So could you and I beat someone from Iceland? Maybe. Like, again, Annie Thor's daughter and Katrin David's daughter, two of the top female athletes who could wipe the table with all three of us here. They've been doing this since, you know, 2010-ish, 2009, doing CrossFit at a very high level. So yes, it's a very specific sport. It's a very interesting definition of fitness. So yes, they could wipe the table with us. But again, somebody from Iceland who now lives somewhere else and has not participated in these things, because we've been training, we might be able to beat them. So anyway, you got me going on a whole academic.
That's a lifestyle thing.
So diet, lifestyle, all that stuff. And so let's sum it up here. Again, our secret to fitness, Corona, that you and I put together is 80% of the time, eat a high quality diet. And you're ahead of 99% of human beings, because
100%.
very few people can do that. We can further define what that means, a high quality diet. We're not going to do that here today. Go check out our episode about game changers, and we go into nutrition and all that stuff. But if you, and again, and here's the other part to this, guys, is if whoever or whatever program you're looking to do, if you're not doing these basics, it's great to want to do, 1,000 burpees a day, or go do Spartan races, or go do Peloton. But if you're not eating right, sleeping right, breathing right, connecting with people, you're lonely, you're not gonna connect the dots, and all you're doing is fighting an uphill battle. So 80% of the time, eat a high quality diet. Number 2 is do the basics. So again, can you do a push-up? Can you do a squat? If you cannot do these things and you have an imbalance, you had a shoulder injury, you had a surgery, and now you're trying to do very complicated things in CrossFit or what have you, you're missing the boat, and you're not doing the basics right if you never quite address that. And again, most of the people I assess, a very, very active population out here in Colorado, they love doing stuff, but no one slowed them down to say, hey, should you be doing snowboarding or skiing with these current injuries? So do the basics. We've kind of gone in depth on there. Number 3 is have intentionality. So again, if your intention is to have six-pack abs and no one's asked you why that's important, or is that really healthy for you, Faraz, short of being on a cover of Men's Health, or, if you're going to plan to take your shirt off when you're doing newscasts, I don't know if that's your plan, Faraz.
It's going to be a very different newscast.
But be intentional. And again, I can't stress enough, the intentionality piece gets missed a lot. Even when someone comes to me and says, I want to lose 20 pounds, I want to get to the heart of why it's not 19 or 21. And is there more to that conversation? So are we being intentional? Because the more connected you are to the plan, not just, I saw this program, the knees over toes program, or I'm just going to pick on whatever, or Herbalife, and I want to lose. They look good. They look like they're having a good time. I want to do that. That's what beer commercials are, right? Oh, if I drink that beer, I'm going to be on the beach with I'm going to get that girl, whatever. So be intentional with what you're doing. Get down to the heart of it. There's a lot of science that, again, folks like us are going to keep spouting, and those that are willing to listen to us, we really appreciate it. And getting past, again, all that noise of social media. That's what we're kind of talking about. So the last one, number 4, the secret to fitness here is being consistent. So the more you can overcome your genetics. So if you don't have great genetics, Faraz, if you don't have the healthiest parents, there's things we need to overcome. And so again, 30 years of consistent training, even, and the more mixed and varied and basic it can be, 30 years of that is going to trump amazing genetics. It's going to trump, not showing up. And these are all those good Kobe Bryant quotes and things like that, right? Of show up, hustle harder. Derek Jeter's special ESPN documentary thing is out right now. He talks a lot about these concepts too. I've only enjoyed the first 2 episodes so far. I'm excited to see the rest. Anyway, that's all my stuff. Corona, what do you got?
Listen, I think I'm going to let Faraz take it first and let him tie a bow on it, and then I'll just close it up.
I think anyone who wants to get on the fitness journey and begin their fitness journey, looking at social media as a platform to start their journey is probably the wrong way to go about it. I think the first thing they should really do is make up their mind that that's what they want to do, and just go right in. As you pointed out, Corona, in the first place, is no one has ever achieved anything in fitness without putting in the hard work. So regardless if you're a guy or a girl, you just need to be willing to put that hard work. It's as simple as that. Once you put that in, everything will start to fall in place. Everything, right from, because your dedication, your passion, they'll all just tie up, whether you're in the gym working out, or whether you're outside making those smart, intelligent food choices. And when it's time for you to recover, you're going to be focused more on, how do I get the maximum amount of sleep? How do I reduce my stress? And all these things we have talked about in our previous episodes.
Yeah, they all impact your health when it's all said and done. Listen, I'm just going to make it brief. if you go online and you're trying to find someone and you just pick the first person because they look good, you probably are gonna have a problem. Maybe you'll have a great experience. I would seem to think that's not likely. But you need to get out there and you need to find out what works for you. I always say this: you don't build a house without plans. You just don't. And you need to go out. I don't care if it's an app. I don't care if it's a website. You need to try other people out there so that they can actually tailor make something that's going to benefit you. If you do something and it's not working for you, you try something and you're not ready for it, the chances of you getting injured are very, very high. The reason this has been made and the reason this podcast was made and the reason we do it is to empower you guys, to give you guys the information that is necessary so that you can progress and succeed out there. It is hard. There's lots of information coming at you in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of things that can come out about it where you might start thinking something else. But when you get back down to the basics, you normally succeed. Bo, you got one last thing before I close this out?
I got a lot of reflections. What I'm going to do, and we were just talking about this, is I'm going to do a Dr. Bo summarizes or reflects on all the fun stuff we covered on my podcast. And we're going to keep cross-contaminating all that fun stuff, I think. So I got a lot of thoughts. Faraz, you look either bored or disinterested. I don't know what's going on with your face right now. What's up with your face?
I'm just really sad that you killed my CrossFit dream, Bo.
Still?
Yeah.
It's been years, man.
With that, I'm going to tie a bow on this and close this out for us. I'll talk to you after the show. I first want to thank our guy, Faraz Javed, for always making time to be with us. And most of all, we want to thank all of you who've taken your time out of your day to listen to us and to enjoy time with us. If you like our show, you can help us by writing a review, liking, sharing, or subscribing to the Demand Better podcast. Don't forget, we are sponsored by Fit Care, Physiotherapy and Wellness, where the idea is to focus on your fitness so you can avoid the healthcare space. Listen, guys, have a great weekend. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Play like a champion.